most of us have this deep longing to feel worth and significance, acceptance, love, beauty. I mean, there's certain things that your soul just longs for on this journey, and whether you've realized it or not, your life is shaped by your search for them. We are a people wired to worship. I mean, I don't believe that we can help that. All of us treasure something or someone above anything else in our lives. So for me, the question isn't, do we worship? The question is, what are we worshiping? The question isn't, are you on a journey? The question is, what are you searching for on this journey? I mean, Scripture is full of example after example of our constant need to grab at almost anything to try to fill these deep longings of worth, significance, acceptance, and love that we have. Probably one of the first, maybe the greatest example was the people of Israel in Exodus 32. I mean, at this point, God has just set the Israelites free from over 400 years of captivity to the Egyptians. This is a group of people who are finally on their way to living the life God had designed for them to live. But there's a problem. Things aren't moving as fast as they would like for things to move, and they're getting restless, and their leader Moses is somewhat absent, and in their impatience, they end up taking things into their own hands. The passage tells us that Moses is so long up on the mountain that all the Israelites start to gather around Aaron, and they start to beg him, let us make this God. We want to make a God that we can see. We want to make a God we can touch. We can make a God that is right here in our presence. And I think it's important to point out that the catalyst to their act of idolatry is having to wait. I mean, don't you hate waiting? Most of us do. I mean, waiting has never been a popular pastime. And I think our culture probably makes it worse because we live in a day of fast this and instant that, and having to wait on anything just seems like a big frustration. And we've started to believe that faster is always better. And we've become seduced by such words as instant and easy. We've become quickaholics, dependent on getting what we want when we want it. Why do we hate waiting so much? I think there's probably a lot of reasons, but I think one of the biggest is that waiting just makes us feel helpless and powerless. And as you probably know, in Scripture, Moses is away and he's receiving the Ten Commandments from God, and apparently he's taking longer than the Israelites want him to take. And so they decide that they want to worship a different God. I mean, the God who delivered them for 400 years of captivity just isn't enough anymore. And only 3 months into their journey of following him, they decide to take a different route. I mean, despite God providing freedom when they were captive, He provided manna to eat when they were hungry. He provided water from a rock when they were thirsty. He was their guidance in the form of a cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night when they were lost. But that wasn't enough for them. So instead of continuing to worship Him, they get frustrated. And instead of worshiping God, they decide to build an idol, a golden calf, and they worship the calf instead. Now, why did they do this? Well, it's simple. I mean, God was making them wait, and the children of Israel didn't like waiting. And this is important for me to note because apparently in my life, when there is this need for hurry plus a desire for control, it becomes really easy in my life to start worshiping someone and something other than my Creator God. So when Moses walks down the mountain, he sees them. They're all worshiping this golden calf. Do you remember what the first commandment was that God had given Moses? You shall have no other gods before me. I mean, the very first law of the most famous moral code in the history of the world is God saying, in essence, don't worship other gods. Don't fall into the trap of idolatry. Don't seek after anything expecting that it's going to give you what only I can give you. Now, we all kind of wonder, why was that the first command? Well, I think God knew something about the children of Israel. God knew something about me. He knew something about you. He knew that there would be this inner emptiness inside of us. He knew that there was an ache that haunts every one of us. He knew that this longing for purpose and beauty and significance and peace just kind of pulsates through our veins, and that we would stop at nothing, including building a golden calf to fulfill those longings. I mean, just think about it. You shall have no other God before me. Your response to those 8 words will influence every facet of your life, because idolatry isn't simply a sin. It's what is fundamentally wrong with the human heart. Part of what I want to do in this study is to help you begin to realize that there is this unquenchable longing that sends us out on the search to discover what it would be like if we were just a little more beautiful, or a little more rich, or a little more successful, or maybe a little more powerful. It's all in this futile attempt to heal this inner emptiness. I mean, sometimes I just start to effortlessly think, if I just had this, if I had that, then I would feel worthy and significant and valued. I mean, we actually begin to think that if we could just make a little more money, then we'd finally be satisfied. We begin to think that if we could just get that promotion, we would finally feel valued. We begin to think that if we could just get that person to love us, we'd have security. But sooner or later, we discover the heartbreaking truth that no matter how beautiful or rich or powerful we become, it's never enough. I mean, you can sacrifice everything for these promises, but they will just leave you wanting, longing, used, and empty.